The country was still in that mood of shock about what had happened, and we've seen quite some movement this week, back and forth. The AG filing a stay in the High Court, withdrawing it, and seeking, I think, to file it tomorrow together. He's already filed a substantive appeal and all of that. So what's the outlook this week? What is likely to happen?
I mean, I think one of the key things, like we said, is the constitution of the bench at the Court of Appeal that would, eventually hear this. I think that is what would be very interesting to see. But because we're just doing some quick thoughts around this as we conclude, I would like to borrow, with permission, Francis Gashuri's phrase, random thoughts. The appellants can choose to not go through the Court of Appeal. There's actually something in the law that allows them to bypass the Court of Appeal and take their appeal directly to the Supreme Court. And this is apparently allowed in the Supreme Court Act, Section 17, that allows direct appeals to it only in what they call exceptional circumstances. It says the Supreme Court will hear and determine the proposed appeal, and it is also satisfied that there are exceptional circumstances that justify the proposed appeal directly to the Supreme Court. Now, we don't know what those exceptional circumstances are. I guess that is up to the appellants and up to the Supreme Court to decide whether those reasons that have been provided by the appellant are exceptional enough to warrant the bypassing of that. So that'll be interesting to see if that happens. Like I said, random thoughts. But it also now does, if that were to happen, would then place the spotlight on the Supreme Court that's been newly constituted just this week, once we have the swearing in tomorrow of both Justice William Ouko and Chief Justice Martha Koome.
You just may be the next person at some press conference. You may be told, Yvonne, I know you.
I see
random thoughts also.
I see Yvonne's random thoughts and on where they're coming from. I think it's more about the question of time, the amount of time that is remaining to next year's general election.
Which is why that would be an option.
Yeah, and also, secondly, some of the proposals in this process relate directly to next year's general election. One, the creation of extra constituencies, which, if this process sails through, must be created by the time we go to an election, because the same constitution tells us the election of the president, of the governors, of the county assembly members, and members of parliament should be conducted on the same day. Number two, if you take it to the Court of Appeal, it's likely to take you a little longer. I mean, injunctions, counter-injunctions, and so on and so forth. So it may take a little time. Maybe this would be a good opportunity for the Supreme Court to deal with the matter substantively if they ever want to, the appellants want to bypass the process. But at least from what we know is that the appellants have filed, have concluded preparing the record of appeal. They received the certified copies of the judgment. They received copies of the proceedings. The only thing I'm told they have not yet gotten is the decree, like that summary of the judgment, which I'm told they will get by Monday. But from as early as tomorrow, they will be moving to the Court of Appeal to seek a stay order. And I'm told there are about 10 senior counsels who have been involved in this process to represent various appellants. So the game starts as early as tomorrow. Let's see what will be happening at the Court of Appeal, even as the swearing in of the Chief Justice designate happens. Whatever happens will be interesting in relation to the entire process. But at the same time, it is also important to point out the applicants or the petitioners are also preparing to deal with the appeal. So expect another round of legal muscle flexing in the Court of Appeal.
I think for me is the IEBC, their case, they're also filing a case at the Court of Appeal, and for them it's from the ruling where, and I'm going to read what Justice Ngugi said. He said, a declaration is issued that the IEBC has no quorum stipulated by Section 8 of the IEBC Act as read with paragraph 5 of the second schedule of the Act. So it went on and talked about how they could not conduct a referendum, including verification of signatures. So I think IEBC is trying to fight that in terms of saying we are a court ruling. I think it was 2017?
2018 by Justice Justice Winfrida
Okwanyi wakiwa watatu ni sawa, wanaweza kuendelea kufanya kazi because questions have risen about wait, if this ruling that was read last week on Thursday, what does it mean for everything that IEBC has done since 2017 to date, from by-elections to verification of signatures to conducting the by-elections I've said. So what does that mean? So are those okay? Are they illegal? So I think that's one of the issues that we need to see. So what next for the IEBC? They were censured quite a bit by the ruling in terms of the process of the BBI and their role in it, as the ruling said that ni watatu na hawatoshi, they need to be more. Of course, the process for filling the vacancy for the 4 has already started. I think they've received, the selection panel has received, I think 700
can you imagine
applications. That? So we expect to see those names printed and then shortlist, and we move on with the process. But for me, I want to see how the IEBC case goes.
Yeah.
Random thoughts.
Random thoughts, yes.
It'll be interesting to see what the memorandum of appeal looks like, what exactly the grounds are. From the petitioners, what is that they want to tell the Court of Appeal with regard to the decision that was made by the High Court. Because what we've seen in the last 1 week are basically political reactions, where political reactions include insulting the judges, and then we've seen something coming up more frequently, this reference to judicial activism. The context of the use of the term judicial activism is not actually in the sense of what it means, but in the sense of how it's been used since 2017. Basically, judges that have been making decisions that are against the executive are actually considered activist in nature, which is not really the definition, because when you look at both the decision of 2017 and the decision of last week, both of them concentrated a lot on process. Just explain to me, how have you done this? How did you walk to this studio? You know? And a good Court of Appeal that is not going to listen to politics and is going to concentrate on issues of the law will have a very, very difficult time overturning the decision of the High Court. But again, we correctly call this random thoughts. We are waiting for the Court of Appeal to actually make that decision. The only reason and I want to agree with you, Francis, the only reason they would want to go straight to the Court of Appeal, to the Supreme Court, is to cut down on the time. Because, look, BBI is a political project. It's not a legal assignment. True. It's a political project, and the promoters have in mind 2022 elections, period.
And actually, its utility ceases to exist if 2022 is no longer in play. So in other words, it is time-bound, that it has to be done between now. It has to have an effect. It has to reflect when we go to the ballot next year. And some people, again, random thoughts, have said that 2022 August might actually be up in the air, depending on what happens with BBI.
An addendum to the random thoughts.
Lots of random thoughts tonight.
In the sense that there's been a thought going on that once the whole question of the new constituencies are resolved, they are now on the table, that maybe there's not enough time and there will be a situation where someone might push for extension or postponement of the election.
And we'll be in trouble again with the Constitution, because the Constitution clearly states even the date.
Yes.
The second Tuesday of the 5th year. The second Tuesday of the 5th year is 9th of August next year. So back to the courts again.
We're already in a lot of trouble with the Constitution as it stands.
But
we need to go home, by the way.
Yes, let's go home with this.
There's no punchline today.
Yeah, no punchline. Let's go home with this. Even as we look at the entire process, it is also important to remember the politics around it. Whatever political coalitions, formations, alignments, and realignments that we see now are largely pegged on the projected outcome of the BBI process. There are 5 key positions that are being created here.
Yeah.
The president, the deputy prime minister, and 2 deputies. Of course, the speakers of the National Assembly and the Senate as well. But whatever formation you're talking about, those dealing with those formations have at the back of their minds the outcome of the BBI process. Otherwise, if you return to the presidential system, president and deputy, a lot of what you see now is likely to change. A lot is going to change.
Okay, so Gashuri, there's a friend of mine, Martin Mavero, who I think saw you struggling to find what exactly Martha Koome said. Tell Gashuri this is not a beauty contest.
Oh, yeah.
Precisely. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Martin.
That's right.
All right.
So this is not a beauty contest either. But listen, thanks. There's been lots of random thoughts here around the table tonight. We thank you for watching, as always. We really appreciate your feedback. It's good to have Jamila back. We're hopefully going to eat some mahamuri.
Let me tell you.
Yeah. Also,
let me tell you, Yvonne. Utazionea view sasa.
Nitasema vitu tuacha kamera zitoke.
This is a good place to go home, guys.
Yes, let's go home and tune into View Sasa, by the way, so you can get this show and perhaps some of Jamila's
Mahamris.
Have a good night, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Pocho, that's what they call it.